Think about someone whose life took a turn so dramatic it feels, well, almost like something out of a movie.
Right.
You know, a well-known comedian suddenly stepping onto the world stage, not to entertain, but to lead a nation through, well, an existential crisis.
Yeah, it's an incredible story.
That's the journey we're diving into today. Volodymyr Zelensky.
And we've got a really fascinating collection of material here. It traces this incredible path, from his early days, his comedy success, right up to him emerging as this wartime leader,
Yeah.
commanding global attention.
So the plan is to really get under the skin of it, understand those key moments.
Exactly. Those transformations, the pivotal points that propelled him into such a significant international position. We're going to look closely at what his journey tells us about leadership, about courage, and, well, the incredible power of communication.
Okay, so let's maybe start at the beginning. Volodymyr Zelensky, born 1978, Kryvyi Rih. That was still the Soviet Union back then.
It was. And by all accounts, it sounds like a pretty typical upbringing for the time and place. His dad was a professor, his mom an engineer, a hardworking, normal family.
Right, nothing necessarily pointing towards, well, this
Yeah,
future.
obviously. No.
Okay.
But one thing that's maybe a small detail but turned out quite important later is his language background.
Oh, yeah.
He grew up speaking Russian, which was pretty common where he lived in eastern Ukraine, but he also learned Ukrainian at school.
Ah, okay.
And this kind of linguistic flexibility, it really helped him later connect with people right across the country.
That makes sense. It's often those foundational things you overlook. And apparently, even when he was younger, he had a certain spark.
Yeah, the sources suggest that. He was known as smart, energetic, loved reading, movies,
Mm.
and maybe most importantly, he just had this natural ability to make people laugh.
The seeds were there early on, perhaps.
You could say that. And that ability, that knack for humor, it found a real outlet when he got involved in the KVN comedy competition as a teenager.
KVN. Now, some listeners might not know it, but that was massive, wasn't it?
Oh, huge. More than just a comedy show. It was like a major cultural phenomenon across the Soviet Union, a big platform. And his team actually went on to win national prizes. That was a real launch pad for him.
A launch pad into comedy, not politics at this stage.
Definitely not politics yet, no.
Okay.
From that success, he formed Kvartal 95.
Right, his comedy group.
Well, it started as a troupe, but it grew into this major entertainment company in Ukraine, producing shows, movies, TV series. They were really successful in the entertainment world.
It's quite something, the level of success he hit there, long before politics was even on the horizon.
It is. And what's fascinating looking back is how that entertainment career got so tangled up with his later political rise, especially through one particular TV series,
Right.
Servant of the People.
Ah, yes, the show where he plays a teacher who becomes president.
Exactly. It first aired in 2015. He plays this ordinary school teacher whose rant against corruption goes viral, and suddenly he's president. And the themes it hit, corruption, poverty, weak leadership, they just struck such a deep chord with Ukrainians.
It's almost uncanny, isn't it? Life imitating art, or maybe art planting an idea in life.
It really feels like that. This fictional story of an ordinary, honest guy becoming president, it captured something people were longing for.
You can almost see the gears turning in people's minds. What if?
Absolutely. That connection between the fiction and the reality is almost unbelievable. The show didn't just entertain, it tapped into this deep public desire for an honest, brave leader, someone completely different. And that sort of paved the way.
So then we jump to 2018, and he actually announces he's running for president. For real, no political experience whatsoever.
Is it?
I remember the reaction, a lot of disbelief, maybe even some people laughing it off initially. What changed? Why did people start taking him seriously?
Well, you're right. There was huge skepticism. But a few things came together. There was this deep, deep public fatigue with corruption. With the same old political faces, people were just desperate for something new.
An outsider.
Exactly. Someone not part of the system they felt had failed them. And Zelensky, partly because of the show, partly his image, he offered that. He represented hope. Maybe a bit of a long shot, but hope nonetheless.
And his campaign wasn't exactly traditional either, was it?
Not at all. Very modern, in a way. Heavy reliance on social media, bypassing a lot of the established channels.
Direct communication style.
Very direct, very simple. Focused hard on fighting corruption and, crucially, on bringing peace to eastern Ukraine, where the conflict was already ongoing.
It was a complete contrast to the usual political playbook.
Totally. And it worked. His message resonated, his outsider status was an advantage, and this modern approach mobilized a lot of support, especially younger voters.
And the result in 2019, staggering. Over 70% of the vote.
A massive landslide. Historic. But then, of course, the confetti settles and the real work begins.
Right. Now you've got to prove you can actually do the job. Unite the country, tackle these huge problems.
Exactly. That huge win brought immense pressure. He took office in April 2019, and the immediate tasks were just enormous. Corruption, improving daily life, and trying to find peace in the East, in Donbass. Monumental challenges for anyone, let alone someone brand new to politics.
And he did tread diplomacy early on, didn't he? There was that meeting with Putin in Paris.
Yes, late 2019, the Normandy format talks. It did result in a significant prisoner exchange, which was a positive step.
A glimmer of hope, maybe?
A glimmer? Perhaps.
Yeah.
It offered initial hope for de-escalation, but the core issues driving the conflict, they remained incredibly complex and largely unresolved. And pushing through domestic reforms wasn't easy either.
Because even with that huge mandate, he'd still face pushback from the old guard, vested interests.
Oh, absolutely. Deeply entrenched systems, powerful figures. Corruption wasn't just going to disappear because there was a new president, even one elected on an anti-corruption platform. It takes time, political capital.
So goodwill, basically. The support he had.
Right. And he needed to spend that wisely to push reforms. He had the public support, definitely, but navigating the political machinery, enacting real change. That was a constant struggle in those early years.
But he did seem to keep that connection with the public going. Those direct videos, social media.
Yes, that was key. He kept speaking directly to people, often quite informally. It helped maintain that image of being relatable, honest, not like the politicians of the past. That was a huge asset.
And that direct communication style would become even more vital later on, wouldn't it?
Absolutely critical.
Yeah.
But before that, another crisis hit COVID-19, early 2020.
Right, a global test for every leader. How did Ukraine and Zelensky handle that?
Well, like everywhere, it was incredibly tough. Lockdowns, immense strain on the healthcare system, which wasn't in great shape to begin with. The economic hit.
A completely different kind of leadership challenge.
Totally different. His approach was generally about projecting calm, urging unity, managing the public health response, trying to steer the country through that immense uncertainty and fear.
And all the while, the situation with Russia wasn't getting any better.
No, tensions were steadily rising. By 2021, we started seeing that major Russian military buildup near Ukraine's borders. The warnings from intelligence agencies became much louder, much more specific.
That must have been an incredibly tense period, balancing the need to prepare, but also trying not to cause mass panic.
An incredibly fine line to walk. Zelensky and his government were trying to prepare the country, bolster defenses, but also avoid triggering panic that could destabilize things internally. Very high stakes.
And his public messaging then was interesting. He was seeking help from the West, NATO, the EU.
Definitely pushing for support, for clarity on membership prospects, things like that.
But also telling Ukrainians, Don't panic, stay strong, we are ready, projecting calm, almost defiance.
It was a very deliberate strategy, trying to reassure people, project national resolve, while simultaneously signaling the seriousness of the threat internationally and trying to secure that crucial support.
Yeah.
A tough balancing act.
So February 24th, 2022, the day everything changed.
The unthinkable. Full-scale invasion, missile attacks across the country, utter shock around the world.
And I think it's fair to say many observers, perhaps even Russia itself, expected Ukraine to collapse quickly.
That was certainly the initial assessment in many quarters. The military imbalance seemed overwhelming, widespread expectations of a swift Russian victory, sadly.
But then Zelensky stayed. He didn't flee Kyiv.
No.
And he recorded that video. That incredibly simple, shaky phone video with his team outside the presidential building.
The president is here. We are all here. We are in Kyiv. We are defending Ukraine.
That moment, it felt like a turning point. Instantly, he became this global symbol of resistance.
It was absolutely pivotal. That raw, direct message completely shattered the narrative of a quick collapse. It sent this powerful signal of defiance, unity, resilience, both to Ukrainians and the watching world. That was the moment he truly became a wartime leader in everyone's eyes.
And his life obviously transformed overnight. Suddenly, he's working nonstop with generals, making life or death decisions, talking to soldiers.
The weight on his shoulders must have been immense. Extraordinary pressure. He had to adapt incredibly fast to the realities of war, coordinating the military effort, managing a nation under attack.
It's fascinating how his communication skills, honed in entertainment, became so crucial.
Paradoxically, yes. That ability to connect, to communicate clearly, directly, emotionally, it proved incredibly valuable under the most intense stress imaginable.
And his global outreach kicked into high gear, those speeches to parliaments around the world.
Just remarkable. Addressing the U.S. Congress, the British Parliament, the Bundestag, Japan's Diet, appealing directly for weapons, for sanctions, for unity.
And he was so effective at tailoring the message, using history, using emotion.
Masterful, really.
Mm-hmm.
He consistently framed it as a fight for shared values, freedom, democracy against tyranny. He invoked historical parallels relevant to each audience, like Pearl Harbor or the Blitz. It wasn't just asking for help, it was a moral appeal.
And it worked. The world did respond. Maybe not as fast or as much as Ukraine needed at times, but the support was significant.
It was. Weapons started flowing, financial aid, huge humanitarian efforts. Countries opened their borders to millions of Ukrainian refugees. Ukraine became this global symbol of resistance, and Zelensky was right at the heart of that.
And on the home front, too, he wasn't just hiding in a bunker. He was visible, visiting hospitals, meeting families, thanking volunteers.
Yes, that was incredibly important for morale, that visible presence, that empathy, showing he was sharing their struggle. It reinforced that sense of unity, that he was with them. It was vital for keeping spirits up under horrific conditions.
His communication was also key in just making sure the world understood what was happening, wasn't it? The human cost, the atrocities.
Absolutely. Using his platform to document the war, to highlight alleged war crimes, making sure the world couldn't look away. That constant flow of information, often very raw and emotional, helped maintain international focus and condemnation of the invasion.
And against those early odds, the Ukrainian military fought back incredibly hard.
They did. With international support, yes, but their own determination and skill were crucial. Defending Kiev, pushing back Russian forces in other areas, even retaking territory later on, it defied all those initial predictions.
Zelensky's own life, though, it must be completely surreal, living under constant threat, immense security.
Unimaginable, really. Reports of living in bunkers, constant security details. Yet his dedication to the role seems unwavering. It speaks to an incredible level of personal commitment, a sense of duty.
And the recognition followed. Time Person of the Year, other awards.
Yeah, lots of accolades. Though he always deflects, saying the focus has to be on peace for Ukraine. But that recognition, it does reflect his global impact, the respect he's earned. It's symbolic of Ukraine's fight as well.
And that work hasn't stopped. Through 2023 into 2024, he's constantly traveling, meeting leaders, building alliances, being Ukraine's voice.
Tireless diplomatic efforts, absolutely essential for maintaining that flow of support, for advocating for Ukraine's long-term security, its sovereignty. He's become this constant, effective advocate for his nation.
And in many ways, he's just become the symbol of freedom in this era, hasn't he? His image, his words resonate far beyond Ukraine.
They really do. He embodies that David versus Goliath narrative, resistance against a powerful aggressor. His commitment to his country's freedom has inspired so many people globally.
Especially striking given he had zero military background. He's had to learn this on the fly, essentially.
Right. Relying on his generals, absorbing complex military realities while providing that crucial political leadership. It's been a steep learning curve, undertaken under the most extreme pressure. His adaptability has been key.
And he seems to make a real effort to stay connected to ordinary Ukrainians, visiting the front lines, talking to survivors.
That connection seems central to his approach. Listening to people, sharing their grief, supporting soldiers directly, it reinforces his legitimacy, strengthens that national unity. It shows empathy, a shared commitment.
Even his clothes. The shift to the military-style green T-shirts and fleece, it became instantly iconic.
A very deliberate visual choice. It projects solidarity with the military, a constant focus on the war effort. It reinforces that image of him as the wartime leader, sharing the burden.
And his honesty, the emotional appeals, telling interviewers about the human cost, defining courage as acting despite fear, that cuts through.
It does. That authenticity, that willingness to show emotion, it makes the tragedy relatable on a human level. It's been incredibly effective in building empathy and sustaining global support. His definition of courage is very powerful, very human.
You could almost draw a line between his leadership, his appeals, and the level of international aid Ukraine has received.
I think it's undeniable his advocacy has played a significant role. Persuading governments, swaying public opinion. It's directly contributed to securing the weapons and aid Ukraine needs to keep fighting.
And somehow, amidst all this, the basic functions of the state have continued, trying to keep schools open, repair infrastructure, support local government.
It's remarkable, really. A testament to the resilience of Ukrainian institutions and the commitment of people at all levels under his leadership to keep the country functioning despite the war.
Looking forward, his vision for peace seems very consistent. Justice for war crimes, return of territory, respect for sovereignty.
Yes, his stance on those core principles hasn't wavered. It's about a just and sustainable peace based on international law and Ukraine's right to exist within its recognized borders.
And it's notable, isn't it, that even in wartime, there hasn't been a major slide into authoritarianism. Elections are delayed for safety, sure, but the press, opposition voices, they still seem to function.
That's a really important point. Maintaining democratic principles under such existential threat is incredibly difficult. His commitment to that balance between security and freedom is a significant aspect of his leadership.
It really challenges you to think about what leadership means in crisis, that balancing act between strength and freedom.
It really does. It's a powerful case study in wartime governance that doesn't automatically sacrifice democratic values. It pushes back against simpler notions of just needing a strong man in tough times.
And ultimately, it seems to come back to this core idea of freedom, not as an abstract concept, but the right to live without fear, to choose your own future.
Exactly. He articulates that fundamental human aspiration very powerfully. It's why his message resonates so widely. It speaks to something universal.
And even in the darkest moments, those glimpses of humanity,
Hmm.
a shared joke, a moment of connection, they feel important.
They are vital. Those small gestures remind us of the enduring human spirit, the importance of hope and connection, even when surrounded by immense suffering.
So here we are in 2024. The fight continues, the challenges are immense, but the spirit of the Ukrainian people seems unbroken.
Their resilience under his leadership is truly remarkable. That determination to defend their sovereignty, their right to exist, it's incredibly powerful.
And through it all, Zelensky himself has undeniably been transformed into this global symbol of freedom, of courage against tyranny.
Absolutely. His image, his message,
Mhm.
they've transcended borders. He's become an icon of resistance, representing that universal fight for dignity and freedom.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, looking back at Volodymyr Zelensky's journey, it's just extraordinary. From comedian to president to, well, this global figure.
The transformation is almost hard to grasp. Entertainment success, then president, then wartime leader of international significance. It's defied all expectations, all conventional narratives.
And you see those key characteristics shining through the courage, obviously, the communication skills, that adaptability, and just unwavering commitment to his people.
Those qualities seem absolutely central. They've enabled him to navigate these unbelievable challenges and inspire not just Ukraine, but much of the world.
And it feels like whatever happens next in the war, his impact on history is already profound. He's shown a generation what leadership can look like in a moment of extreme crisis.
I agree. His actions, his words, his resolve, they've already secured his place. A leader who met an extraordinary challenge with courage, conviction, and that deep sense of duty.
And there are lessons here for all of us, aren't there? Ordinary people doing extraordinary things, the power of words, courage being about acting despite fear, leadership as service.
Absolutely. These are universal truths that go beyond the specific context. His example offers valuable insights into human potential, into what effective leadership really means, whatever the challenge.
It really makes you reflect on your own life, doesn't it? The challenges you face, the potential maybe we all have to make an impact, big or small.
It definitely prompts that kind of reflection. How do we respond to adversity? How can we exercise courage, show leadership, make a difference in our own worlds?
So maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to take away. What aspects of Zelensky's leadership resonate most with you? And how might those principles apply, perhaps in your own life or just in how you view the wider world? Consider how his journey really reshapes our understanding of what leadership can be in this complex 21st century.